The old saying goes that offense gets the glory, but defense wins championships. And if that holds true, Arizona State is in great shape. The Sun Devil defense was a strong force in 2024, consistently stepping up in the big moments. And with many key players returning in 2025, defensive coordinator Brian Ward is feeling pretty good heading into his third season at the helm. On this episode, Brian gives us a detailed breakdown of each of the position groups, a look at his defensive philosophies, discusses the impact of a player led culture, the challenges of defending quarterback Sam Leavitt, his appearance in the new EA Sports college football video game, and so much more. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with ASU defensive coordinator Brian Ward. All right, Brian, we got to start off with the most serious topic. How does it feel to be in the new EA Sports college football game?
I'm in the game. Yeah, that's crazy. What's funny is I got a lot of texts about that. Just not only from our players, but from recruits and family members. They made a big deal out of it. So, I guess I don't know. Is there a picture of me in there? Is there like a?
I haven't
Is it
seen
like
one yet.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I guess I'll probably see my son or something playing it, someday over Christmas break or, during this vacation, and I'll check it out. So, all I care about is that there's good representation of what we're doing on defense. I don't want any unsound stuff going on that game because I didn't talk to anybody about it. So, they just got my name. So, we'll see how it all works out.
You mentioned just a second ago you heard from recruits. I mean, is the video game like kind of something on the recruits' radar? Just amongst the many things obviously going to decision, but just having that back in the pop culture zeitgeist, is that kind of something you're hearing a little bit more since it came back last year?
Oh, 100%. All these guys are on the game. These guys just it's a big part of this generation right now, and I guess it was part of my generation 30 years ago. But we obviously weren't as advanced technologically, and some guys were hooked on those things, and other guys weren't. And I guess there was probably a point in time where I did play a lot, Nintendo, and and that was about it. But yeah, I'm pretty much dating a lot of people on that, but yeah, I mean they're all playing some game, some something to occupy their time.
So you mentioned you'll be getting some well-deserved time off here over the off season, but obviously with the extended playoff run, heading into January, spring ball not too long after that. Of course, the recruiting never really quiets down. What does the quote unquote off season look like for a major college football defensive coordinator?
Just relaxing. Just making sure you got as much time at home as possible, and get a chance to get reacquainted with your family, and if you're married, your wife. I like to cook. I like to be at home. I'm kind of a homebody. Don't like to go out much. We'll probably get out of town, probably go, get near some water somewhere, and just so you can relax and just enjoy the time off. Sleep and just really don't. The still thing that you still have to do is you still got to recruit, and you still got to stay in contact with with your players here on campus, and making sure that they're getting done every day what they need to get done. But other than that, vacation is vacation. We use it, and we know if we don't, we're going to lose it.
You mentioned getting around some water. There's the phrase that's been going around, college football for decades, that OCs are the beach guys, DCs are kind of the lake guys. I mean, where do you fall on that
Mhm.
spectrum?
I'm probably more of a beach guy. I spent a lot of time in Minnesota as well, but it's what are you closer to? And here we're closer to the beach, with California and Mexico, and there's not a lot of lakes here. We do go out to Bartlett, and our offensive coordinator has a boat, so we like that. I just got out there this past weekend, so that was a lot of fun, and Marcus invited me out there. That was a lot of fun. Did a little wakeboarding, got beat up a little bit. It felt like I'd played in a football game the next morning, but no, yeah, just we like to get around any kind of water, get outside, enjoy the summer. And I'm a guy that likes the heat, believe it or not. And so shoot, I like to get outside and spend time outside, especially this time of year.
Okay, so of course, heading into year three, when you guys first took over a couple seasons ago, just kind of laying the foundation and the expectations of the culture, obviously the huge success from a season ago. Where do you see now kind of the program culture has having evolved from, that starting point to now heading into year three with, a trophy in the trophy case and a lot of expectations.
Yeah, I mean it really does feel like year three, because we did start off, really trying to, remake this program from the ground up, and we've done that. And when you get to this point where you have experience, you have guys that know what the expectation, what the standards are. You reset your goals and you reset where you think you can be, and what your expectation is. So, I think this is going obviously according to plan, and having some of these guys that have been a part of it since day one, guys, guys like Xavier Alford, CJ Fight, Keith Abney. I'm just kind of going down through the list. Montana Warren, Blazing Lonawong, Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neill. I mean, there's just so many guys that have been here, defensively since day one. That first fall camp practice that we had prior to 23, and now you're going into 25, and those guys have been through it, and they know what the expectation is, and they're able to push just what the standard needs to be and where we want to be. So it's always been about us, and it's been about the process, and controlling the things that we can control, and we're really where we want to be here going into year three.
I've spoken to many players, since the end of the season, and talking about the level of success that they had, and almost to a man, it's been just like not even worrying about what has happened, but the focus is okay. That's great, but that's last year's team, and the focus now just been squarely on 25. How do you feel, from coach perspective? How do you feel this team has had success, especially with so many returning guys that were a crucial part of last year?
Well, excuse me. Again, these guys are a really self-motivated bunch, and I've said it 100 times. What made last year's group so unique was, is whenever we got hit on the chin, whenever we were faced with adversity. And I'm speaking, really, I guess you could speak for the whole team, and I got to speak for the defense most of the time. But I know from the defensive side of the ball, we just had a group that just didn't waver. When things weren't going our way, and when we needed to make a play, and when we needed to get back on track, this was a group that just never flinched throughout the course of the season. And I don't think they ever expected perfection from themselves or from each other. But I think they were able to know, hey, when things didn't go well, this is a group that just came off the side. They came off the field. They get to the sideline and be like, what do we got to do to make this right? And hopefully we can continue to carry that characteristic and continue to grow that characteristic on our defense. And they've taken that mindset into the off season, and that just, you can see it in the work that they're putting in right now, their attention to detail, and what they're doing just even right now this summer when they have a lot of free time. They like to say, like, character is who you are when no one's watching, and you really, this is a group that's really defined by that.
So, of course, Kenny's always been a guy that seems to be, age well beyond his years, and taking over in his first year of his alma mater of obviously a lot of adversity, then the big success a year ago. How have you seen Kenny, still as one of the younger coaches in the country, kind of evolve from that, that first day, and taking over to now heading into 2025?
I'm not. I won't even say, like. I mean, everybody evolves, and I think we all evolve as people, and also professionally. And most coaches live this profession. It's not just a job. It's really a way of life. It's really, it helps define who you are. And when you're put in a position like Coach Dillingham, was put in, a few years ago. I think it's one of those things that guys, they become head coaches, and when you become a head coach, you really, it really isn't what you expected it to be. And I think a lot of guys like change who they are, and they try to change course, and they try to change the process. And the one thing that I think that Coach Dillingham embraced just from day one, and I've never even really talked to him about this, and just full disclosure is, he was able to handle adversity. I think this is what made him different, is he was able to handle adversity, the peaks and the valleys, and really the valleys of that first year and a half, just without wavering off course. And if he did waver off course, it wasn't enough for people to see it. And where all of a sudden it was a 180-degree change. It was he was able to just really navigate, a lot of the issues and a lot of the challenges that that he was presented with. And to be honest with you, I don't think he was ready for all those challenges. I don't know how anybody can be. I think, being a head coach is a 365-day a year, 24-hour a day, 7-day a week job. I mean, even on holidays. And you may be able to go home, but you really can't, unless you turn the phone off and put it in a dresser, it's really something you can't turn off. And I think when you become a head coach, especially when you add the situation and some of the adversities that came with this job from jump, the one thing that he's been able to do, and I'm just saying this, just full disclosure, is he's been able to navigate the ups and downs without creating chaos, creating indecisiveness or indecision. But I think the biggest thing is just consistency, and just being consistent in his approach to each day, and whether there was success or failure, or an outright, failure, or someone dropped the ball, it was, hey, we're going to keep it moving, we're going to keep it pushing, and we're going to focus on the process, not, on every win and loss, and that everything was fourth and one.
So he's obviously also a very quotable guy. Now working with him for about 3 years. What's your favorite Dillyism?
Hmm. Well, my favorite Dillyism was when he misspells things. Because I just would hate to say, just because I think initially it was okay, he's a bad speller. Initially, okay, what is it? Is it a lack of attention to detail? It's not any of those things. There's something like Jedi mind trick to it, and it's almost like, hey, are you catching it? Are you paying attention? It's hey, are you seeing some of these details? You know what I mean? Are you looking for details? Are you just hearing as opposed to listening? Are you just hearing? Are you just hearing words? Are you just hearing noises when I'm speaking, or are you actually really listening and paying attention? So it's yeah, it's a little Yoda-ish, little Jedi mind trick type stuff.
That's hilarious because I spoke to Jason Mons recently, and he said the same thing. Like his mom was an English teacher, so spelling is always
Mhm,
super important to him. And Kenny is just like,
mhm,
oh, if we can misspell it, but it helps the comprehension of the players or whatnot. We'll do it. And he says like that's how we've been doing it. It's been working, and his own like Jason's own spelling has kind of suffered as a result, but it seems to be
mhm.
working. So it was a method to the madness with Kenny.
Yeah, 100%.
So then on the flip side, what's a Wardism? What's something that maybe your players might say that you quote often.
I think they always I don't know, I think they always do make comments about just I always like relate a lot of football to boxing, and a lot of boxing isms, and
Okay.
and whether I talk about controlling distance, and like, you manage distance, don't let him get too close to you. If he is too close to you, you gotta use block protection opposed to destroying blocks. You know, I think I use a lot of those correlations between, I guess, the fight game and football, just because that I guess that was a little bit of my background growing up, and I still follow the sport, and I think it's a fascinating sport. And there's a lot of strategy and science to it, as well as there's football. And to the naked eye, people wouldn't be able to see those things, but there's so many little nuances and details that there's a lot of similarities to both sports.
Just want to talk a little bit about last year. Just what were some of your favorite moments? Throughout the course of obviously the narrative has been told repeatedly of starting off with the dead last of the preseason poll, ending with a playoff spot and a conference title. But throughout that entire run, what were some of your favorite moments that you look back and cherish the most?
Yeah, I mean, golly, you could go to every game. I mean, you literally could go to every game, including the last game. I mean, there were so many highs and lows, and there was so much that went into the season. But to be honest with you, the biggest thing, and I guess the thing that I find the most gratitude from, um, really, it's probably against the flow when I say that it was during the week. The attention to detail, the focus that our team had, and just when we got to November, it was such a 180 from the year before. Than when we got to November the year before, and I'm speaking more more about defense, obviously, is when we got to November last year. I mean, 2 years ago in 23, we just literally and proverbially, I guess, just fell apart, and it really didn't happen just on Saturday. That was a byproduct of everything that was going on during the week. It was the attention to detail, it was the guys coming up, taking each day, as an opportunity to get better. Guys not doing anything they can to practice and be able to, get to a walkthrough. Guys coming up in our offices. I'm talking about November, and this is after these guys have done it all of August, all of September, and all of October. With one day off a week, and those days they'll come up to the facility to get their legs right and get in the cold tub, and so they're really not having any days off. And those guys coming up, in November and still having that same amount and attention to detail and focus on the process, Sunday through up until game time on Saturday. And whereas the year before, we lost all that focus. Guys are focused more on getting to Saturday rather than taking the steps each day to get better. Just seeing just the energy that they come in with every day, in November, and knowing that they were playing for something, it was one of the most enjoyable like months, Novembers, of my whole career, and that was my 27th year. Just it was just a group that genuinely believed, and they just kept playing better and better football. And so that's probably, I guess, a time period of last year that was the most enjoyable to me, because you knew that whatever detail you were bringing to a meeting, those guys were trying to execute that detail out on the field and not on practice. And didn't matter if it was Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or a walkthrough on Friday. It was just a great group and a great, it was a great thing to be a part of.
Of course, as someone who grew up in the valley, what was it like for you on the scale to see the valley activated, so to speak? And the sold out crowds are one thing, but hundreds of fans greeting the buses at the facility, the buzz around town, and just the general excitement of the Sun Devil Nation finally reawakening after a few rough years.
It was, I mean, it was close to surreal. I mean, and looking back on it, because the weight of responsibility that's on your shoulders, you're doing all you can to take in every moment, and every moment you can take a deep breath, which I did. But you also shoulder the responsibility of getting them ready for the next week. And but reflecting on what happened, I go all the way back to 1986 when I moved out. It was actually November of '85 when I moved out to Arizona, and I was in seventh grade. And that was the Rose Bowl year, and I got a chance to go to my first ASU game, which was against the Wichita State Shockers here at home. And that was the first Arizona State game that I'd ever been to, and that was the Rose Bowl year. And just seeing how alive the Valley was that year, and just how activated the Valley was. And then you fast forward 10 years to the Rose Bowl year against, when we lost in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State, and I had several friends and people that were associated with that program at that time. And so, I wasn't actually here in state. I was out of state going to college, finishing up college. But just, the whole valley was alive, and you just saw how awesome that was. So there was those time periods that I was able to be a part of, which in the last 50 years were the most electric atmospheres that Arizona State football has been able to generate here in the valley. And then to be a part of that my second year back, and in 2024, it was something that we kind of, that literally in my mind I aspired to, and hope we could get back to and be able to recreate some of that. And it was amazing. It was incredible. It was a surreal experience, and just incredibly blessed to be a part of it.
So of course, defense is always evolving throughout in football, and nothing's ever stagnant. So what are some of the latest trends, schemes, philosophies, as in the game right now that you really find yourself kind of most interested in?
I mean, anytime, I have a philosophy on defense, and there's been times in my career where I tried to move away and do things that really didn't fit with our philosophy, and it really didn't meet with very positive results. And I could say, at one place it met with disastrous results. And um since then I've really gotten to the principles of what we do defensively and the system that we're a part of, and I'm always looking at what other people are doing, but I'm also conscious of what types of offenses they're seeing, what types of personnel that they're having to defend, what types of styles of offense that they're having to defend. And there's just very different offenses when you go from conference to conference, in college football right now. And there's some teams that are having a lot of success on defense, and there's some conferences that are really dominant on defense. But I always say that, it's always attributed to what type of quarterbacks you're playing and what type of quarterback playing systems you're playing that you can attribute good defense too. So I'm always looking at people that do very similar stuff to us on defense. And I still do keep, and that's basically what I've been spending the last few weeks doing, is really focusing on some of the trends that you're seeing in, defensive football right now, with a lot of the, with whether it be bracket, type coverages or simulated pressures out of coverages, whether it's cover two or cover three or cover four, whether, whatever teams are doing that is kind of the new wave thing. It's sometimes a lot of the success that they're having is symptomatic of the offenses that they're seeing, and it really wouldn't work in some of the situations or some of the offenses that we're going to see. So that's just part of being a coordinator. That's part of having, I guess, experience, is being able to see what's too expensive to add to your package and what would be the least expensive and what would add to the investment that you would make into that, either new coverage, new blitz, new defense, new philosophy. So that's constantly the thing that we're always looking at as coaches and as coordinators. And thankfully, I got a head coach too, that he looks at things and gives his opinion from a deep and well thought offensive perspective. It's not just flippant. It's not well thought out. And that's the thing that I appreciate about Coach Dillingham the most, is I could talk football with him at any time of the day, and he's going to think about my questions and my thoughts and what I'm thinking about. And he's going to think about it just as deeply, because he is even more invested in what happens here in Tempe than anyone else.
Being a coordinator at this level obviously is a tremendous grind, and a lot of work, a lot of long hours, but a lot of rewarding aspects to it. What have you found over the years? And you mentioned had 27 years, and now what's been the most rewarding parts of the grind of the day in and the day out?
Just it really is. It's kind of like a personal mission statement for me. And I really had to learn this through, a lot of the valleys in coaching, because I think one of the paradoxes of coaching is you want control of everything and everyone and everything that happens on the field, um, in any given situation and on every given play. And you're constantly trying to find better ways to communicate, better ways to reshape or reteach things to make it simpler. You're constantly trying to find, like you just asked before, ways to make your package and make you more sound, but more multiple, more impactful, but less vulnerable. On defense, and you're constantly weighing those things, and that's what makes it such a great job and such a great profession, because you're literally challenged every day with that, especially if you live it. And like most coaches do at this level. Um, but I guess the most rewarding thing for me is literally laying in my bed on a Friday night, before a game on Saturday, knowing that I've done everything that I possibly can do to get our guys prepared to be successful. And if and when I don't feel that way, those are the most restless nights sleeps. And these guys up, and DJ Foster coined this, and I'm going to carry this for the rest of my career. He said to me one day, he said, these guys got 4 years to make their college experience as such that they can set themselves up to live out their dreams and their goals in playing in the NFL. And it's our job as coaches, it really is. And I'll say it's my job, is to get our guys completely prepared to be successful on Saturday. And if I haven't done that either through miscommunication or double talk or not being thorough or not getting them the written material or not preparing them for a play or situation or something, that could end up having a bad impact on our defense that can give up points or a big play or put a team in scoring position. If I haven't done those things and I haven't done that as a coach, then I haven't done my job. And I've really learned to really focus on that more of the wins and the losses because I know if I do that, then that me as a coordinator, as a position coach, and as a member of the staff, I'm doing what I need to do for us to be successful, and I've done my job. And there's been games where where we've lost, and where I still can rest my head on a soft pillow because, again, being process oriented, and that's the way I've come. The older I've gotten, the more I know that, hey, I can only control so much, but what I can control, I better do it. And the only way I can do that is through doing everything I can, and physically, emotionally, mentally, being it just spend everything I can to get our guys prepared. So until that happens, until I don't feel that way or I don't have the energy to do that, then I'm gonna be doing my job.
So looking ahead to this upcoming season, spring ball wrapped up a little bit ago. What were some of your key objectives for your defense heading into the spring, and how do you feel overall that the defense was able to manage them?
Well, one, we would develop depth and try to get into our three deep and some of these guys that have been here in our program, these younger guys who haven't had a chance to really get the reps to really learn the defense and play faster and if whatever situation may arise, that we need to depend on those guys this year, that those guys will be in a position where they're ready to help us be successful. And I think we did that. A lot of guys got a lot of reps. We were able to rest the legs of the guys who got a lot of reps. I mean, Miles Rouser played almost 900 snaps last year. Same as Xavier and Alfred. Those guys didn't get as many reps this spring, and getting those guys to a point where they felt, where they can get their legs back underneath them. Guys like Keyshawn Elliott, Jordan Crook, Prince Dorba, Clayton Smith, Justin Wadley, Elijah O'Neal. I mean, those guys were able to get less reps, and some of those younger guys get reps so they can continue their development. So we were able to do that to be able to add to our depth. Focus on the red zone and on third down, and it just felt like we cleaned a lot of things up, and we're going to be better in those areas this year, and I don't have a doubt that we will because being able to really look, at ourselves and look at some of the things that we can do better, and then maybe adding some wrinkles too that can help us be better. We've done those things, so um, just feel like we did grow as a defense, grew in our depth. Our older guys, we feel like got a step better and are more confident, and always trying to put pressure mentally on those guys. I mean, every day in the spring, every day right now in the summer, we're doing those things. So when the season comes, it's just going to be steady as she goes.
All right, so I want to get your quick thoughts on each of the position groups. Coming out of post spring, where the kind of the state of the where they currently stand right now, with a few weeks out from fall camp. Starting off inside at defensive tackle.
Yeah, I mean, we feel great about our defensive tackles. I mean, obviously, starting with CJ Fight and Jacob Kangaika. Zach Swanson, I know he got banged up at the end of spring, but he's going to be ready for fall camp. Blazing Lonawong, you got a lot of experience with those four guys, but then you add guys like Ian Shule, who was here last year. He gave us some depth last year, saw some run a little bit at the end of the season. He had a really good spring. Um, Akil Gardner came in, his transfer from Oregon, and he's a local kid who I recruited when I was at Washington State. He was one of the best young defensive tackles that I had ever evaluated. So I mean, I'm really excited about his future. We're happy he's here. And then Deshaun Morgan, bringing him in. He's just reported yesterday, and he's big as a house already, and he's a hungry, high football IQ guy. So I would not be surprised if he was able to, give us some help this year as well. Defensive end, in our edge position, you got Prince and Clayton and Watley and Elijah O'Neal, who got the bulk of the reps last year. Roman Petrie had a phenomenal spring. He's ready to take a step forward and help us. And then, some of the younger guys like Albert Smith and Celeste Manu, those guys had great springs. Albert is electric, especially in pass rush situations, and Celeste was able to give consistent pressure and get consistent pressure on the quarterback. And he's kind of the jack of all trades type of guy. Like, you're just going to be able to depend on him. I'm really excited about his future as well. And then we added, a new transfer, Shanklin, and we think he's going to help us a lot, and we think he's gonna be an impactful transfer for us. Um, yeah, so we're really feeling really good about our defensive line, and uh, I feel really good about our depth. We've got a lot of experience up there, coming back, and if we can stay healthy up front, we're gonna be pretty solid.
It seems like, or during our conversation last year, you mentioned kind of year two is when the Y kicks in, players play a little faster. I thought, watching spring practices, that was really evident with Jordan Crook, Keyshawn Elliott, just seemed to be a little bit of a different gear than last year. More and just guys just flying all over the place. How do you feel about the current state of the linebackers?
Yeah, I mean, you just got a lot of difference makers, impact players, and Crook and Keyshawn Elliott and Zyrus and Martell Hughes had a phenomenal spring. I mean, he's a big, he reminds me a lot of kid that I coached at Washington State and in Nevada, Deion Henley, who now stars for the Chargers, and he's the same type of athlete. We're really excited. And then we got some good young guys that we recruited. Puka and Isaiah Iosefa. I mean, these are really talented younger linebackers that we poured a lot of time into, and we're really excited about their development, their progress. And then, the local guy, Prayer Black Goat Young, he's had a phenomenal spring, and he's continuing to grow and mature, and we feel really good about those linebackers for the future. But those guys that played this past year in Keyshawn, Crook, and Zyrus and Martell, I mean, we feel really blessed to have those four guys, and then those younger guys are constantly trying to catch back up from a learning curve and a football IQ standpoint, and just really excited about that group moving forward.
As a DC, how nice is it to have where both your returning starting corners and Keith Abney, Javen Robinson in there. Rodney seemed to have a really tremendous spring. Very unfortunate news about Plas, but overall, it seems like the corners are in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, and Nyland Green, getting the addition, of him, just a guy who's played 4 years of college football. He has starts under his belt in the SEC and in the Big Ten. And bringing him here, you really feel like, not only do you have two starters in Keith and Javen coming with a lot of experience and a lot of experience in our system. So knowing the little details and playing fast in it, you bring a guy like Nyland in who's played, he's played a lot of football in his career, and he came in and he was able, he's a very high football IQ, high functioning guy. So he's going to give us some quality snaps. And Rodney's that guy that this is his year to really take that step forward, and take that step forward out of being, that freshman, and having more of an upperclassman mindset, that he's been here and done that. And we're expecting big things for Rodney. Um, and we're really excited about that room. And Joseph Smith, who's a brand new freshman, he was pretty much, I guess, in that room the surprise of the spring. He's an incredibly high football IQ. The game seems slow to him. Super physical type corner, very very much a Keith Abney type player, but even a little bigger, just naturally bigger guy. So as he continues to mature, we're excited about his future in that room as well. So just excited about our depth that we have at the cornerback position, and guys that have position flexibility too, just moving forward.
And then looking at that nickel spot, of course, Montana Warren, you saw a lot of reps there. Kindrich Breedlove, I thought, made strides as spring went on. You're kind of unfortunate about Boogie Wilson, but seems like he might be in that mix as well, because obviously some big shoes to fill with Shamari, off to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you don't replace Shamari Simmons and what he's meant to, just the growth that we've had over these last couple of years. And now going into year three, you got a guy like Montana Warren, who's been in every meeting of mine since I started here. So he was a mid-year graduate. He came at mid-year. So he started off at free, moved to nickel, played some free, played some nickel. He's a guy that has a lot of position flexibility, and he's a guy that moved over from offense in high school, and now he's playing defense. So we're excited about Montana. We don't have a better athlete on our football team, and just love his work ethic and the attitude that he brings every day. Kendrick Breedlove, I think he started 10 or 11 games for, in the Big Ten last year at his previous school. The guy has several starts under his belt. We felt like he was that guy that we could bring in at nickel that could really help us improve on third down. Because of his man cover skills, he's converted corner. He's become more physical, and he did have a great spring, and the more he learns our system, the better he becomes. So we're expecting great things out of Kendrick this year. Um, you know, at the nickel spot, you got Kyan McDonald, who missed all the spring, unfortunately, due to an injury right before the start of spring ball. But he was the backup at nickel, all season last year to Shamari, and so he has game experience under his belt. Played a little bit in the Big 12 title game, so excited about his development. Excited to see what he can do for the first time since the season. Now that he's back and in shape and ready to practice, um, and then you got a guy like Tommy Romano, who's just a great program guy. He brings it every day, and he's getting better as well. So excited about the nickel position. Boogie's the type of guy that he could play. He could play nickel, free, strong, dime. He's the guy that I think could do pretty much it all in the back end. And Boogie played. Started 10 games at Washington State at free safety last year, but he's a guy that's also played strong and a little bit of nickel. So he's a guy that, again, was in our system up at Washington State. And he's a guy that has a high football IQ, and he's really assimilating into our summer workouts and some of those practices really, really well, and expecting big things for Boogie in the future. But having guys like Miles and Xavion back, it really makes things where you're able to develop the underbelly of the program. Some of the guys in the depth and the guys who we see as being impact players, and not only this year situationally and being great role players, but also like for the future in 26 and 27. Like, these guys are the next all conference type players, and we know when I'm talking about guys like Boogie and Montana and Kyan, and you got some guys there. And a guy that really came on during the spring was Jack Ball. And Jack was a former walk on here, and came from Centennial, was a decorated high school player here in Arizona. And Jack just had to learn to trust the body that he and the body of work that he's built since he's been here. And part of that is him gaining almost 15 to 20 pounds of muscle since he's been here. And he's become a more physical and bigger player. And I had to sit him down at the beginning of spring and say, listen, Jack, you run around as well as anybody, you cover as well as anybody, you do things, the defense as well as anybody, but until you start being physical and start like throwing your body around and getting guys down, you're never going to play here. And literally overnight he turned it around, and it was like almost like the belief that I had in him, that we had in him, he just turned it loose. He started to believe in himself that way, and he really started doing some great things for us. So I'm excited about his future, his future for us, and him being able to help us this year. And then, the last guy is, Ben Alafeo. Ben just reported yesterday, and he was a guy that we worked on for 2 years recruiting here. And we beat a lot of good programs on him, and just excited about him to see what he can do. And when he gets in shape and learns this system, what does his future look like? So we have some depth there in the secondary, and hopefully we can stay. If we stay healthy, we know what we're working with. If we don't stay healthy, then hey, we can get into some of those younger talented guys that have put the work in, that we're excited about in their future.
Talked about that X and Ghost there in terms of just being able to help look and develop the younger guys. But how much of a luxury is it as a DC just to have those guys back there on the back line? Arguably the best safety tandem in the country.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's funny. That's the way I feel, and most the people that have played against them, and the people that have had to, coach them, be around them. That's how we feel. It's just I'm a little surprised they're not getting a little more attention. And so, like Zay and Miles and I like to say, we're keeping receipts. And yeah, we're excited about what those guys are going to do this year. And I promise that those guys are going to play a step faster. And I'm excited to see how this season plays out for those two.
So as we wind down here, just want to get your thoughts. As a DC, what kind of challenges does a quarterback like Sam Leavitt pose to a defense, and what kind of sleepless nights? Well, there's the upcoming slate of opposing DCs have in store for them.
Yeah, I mean, just turn on the film. I mean, he's so accurate when he throws the football. He's a guy that's confident throwing from the pocket. If something breaks down, he's able to extend plays, and those are the guys that just are going to keep coordinators up at night because you can have the perfect defensive play called, but the thing that you can't equate is his legs and the ability to get himself out of trouble, and the courage he has too. I mean, it's just there's something that ticks inside of him. He's just a competitive dude. He's a competitor, and he's like that kid that just won't take no for an answer. he's he is yeah, he's a competitive dude, and I don't tell many people this, but I just I just remember the night before the Big 12 title game. I'm going in. It's about 9:30 at night in the defensive meeting room, and it's completely dark in there. And I think I'm going in there so I can just kind of watch some film and get some notes. And I walk in, and the film is on, but it's not moving. So as I walk closer to get to the projector, and the film starts moving, I look down, and Sam's laying on the ground watching film in our defensive unit just because he wanted privacy and he just wanted time to watch the film. And this is 9:30 at night. It's about 30 minutes before bed check, and I'm going down there just to watch film, just to kind of go through my script and look at and see how I'm going to call it, and just kind of go to bed with a like I talked about with that with that soft pillow and soft conscience, and Sam's down there. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never seen that before. And so it just when I'm talking about being a competitor, I'm not talking about just on the field. I mean, the dude competes in the way he prepares, and those guys are again, character is who you are when no one's watching. That's the type of character that dude has.
So, of course, this fall, there's going to be a lot of expectations surrounding this defense. So many returning guys. But, before that first snap, before fall camp even gets underway, what are some of the things over the rest of this summer and this offseason that you want to see from your guys to get ready for this upcoming year?
Stay healthy, and don't let their nightlife affect their day life.
I'd like to thank Brian for taking the time to talk with me for this episode. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils on the podcast platform of your choice, as well as on YouTube. And make sure to follow me on all things social media at BDenny29.